Good afternoon. It's 9 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. There seems to be an overstated amount of outrage over people making perfectly obvious observations, although somehow the outrage seems only allowed on one side of the argument. Here's Akua Ando observing a balcony of white people from a white family and commenting on how white they are.
The rich diversity of the Abbey to a terribly white balcony. I'm very struck by that.
There was no real outrage initially after this comment. Those sitting with her even appeared to be in agreement. It was only because someone somewhere pointed out that this could be seen racist that the outrage started. Up to that point, it was perfectly acceptable and no one, not even the broadcaster, urged her to apologise immediately. Here's Hamza Yusuf pointing out that in a country full of white people, Scotland, that a lot of people are white.
That 99% of the meetings I go to, I'm the only non-white person in the room. The Lord President, white. The Lord Justice Clerk, white. Every High Court judge, white. The Lord Advocate, white. The Solicitor General, white. The Chief Constable, white. Every Deputy Chief Constable, white. Every Assistant Chief Constable, white. The head of the Law Society, white. The head of the Faculty of Advocates, white. Every prison governor, white. That is not good enough.
No real proper outrage initially. He thought it was a perfectly reasonable and fair thing to say. He wrote it all down and said it, until someone somewhere pointed out that Scotland is, well, it's over 90% white, isn't it? And of course, let's not forget our friend Dr. Shola. Remember her? She gets a national platform to spew out a load of guff, and that is perfectly fine.
It is not the job of black people and ethnic minorities to educate white people on racism that is perpetrated by white people. Right. White folks need to go educate themselves on the racism they perpetrate. The reason why the racism experienced by Meghan feels so personal and it deeply resonates with a lot of people is because it's symptomatic of the culture of racism in the United Kingdom.
But dare you be brave enough to comment the other way round? There's hell to pay. Here is Robert Jenrick pointing out an observation that in a predominantly white country, there is an area that white people are in the minority.
In the hour and a half that I was filming with news there, I didn't see another white face. And that's not the kind of country I want to live in. I want to live in a country where people are properly integrated. It's not about the colour of your skin or your faith. Of course it isn't. But I want people to be living alongside each other, not parallel lives. That's not the right way we want to live as a country.
The outrage was off the scale. The point he was making is that he wanted to live in a more integrated society. But it's OK to say the countryside is too white. And here is Sarah Pochin making comments about the number of people of colour in adverts in a country where the majority of people are white.
It drives me mad when I see adverts full of black people, full of Asian people, full of, you know, people that basically are anything
What's wrong
other
with that,
than
Sarah?
white.
She has since apologised, saying it was not her intention to cause offence. So, firstly, I don't care what colour people are in the adverts. I hadn't noticed until a panellist pointed this out last year, and it depends on what channel you're watching in any case. I also don't take offence at Robert Jenrick pointing out that he wants to see more integration and is concerned about a lack of white faces because it would have been OK to say it the other way round. My point is this. If you really want equality, if you're allowed to say you want more black people, then you should be allowed to say you want more white people. Personally, I couldn't give two hoots what colour you are. So to react to my niggle, I'm joined by political activist Shakil Afsar. Shakil, so really good to talk to you. So what are your thoughts?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I'm quite worried with the fact that you are referring to Hamza Yusuf's comments in comparison to Sarah Pochin. To give you actual and your viewers an insight, this is the same Sarah Pochin who was kicked out of the Tory party. This is the same Sarah Pochin who says that she's mad when she sees black and ethnic minorities, but attended a refugees welcome event in Macclesfield in 2022. She's the same Sarah Pochin who tells drink drivers, don't be too hard on yourself, it is what it is. And is willing to stand next to Farage, but blames Brexit for her failure of a family. So it's very telling that this particular member of parliament and her persona, and the fact that she's Reform's first woman, lady, female MP, is a very telling sign of how the Reform Party is structuring itself and how rife racism is becoming. You did state just a minute ago it doesn't bother you.
No,
it might not bother. It might
no,
not.
I don't care what colour.
because-
No, I said no. Let's put it in context. I said I personally don't care what colour people are.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't say I'm not bothered about what she said. I just don't care what colour people are.
And with all due respect, I think you're part of the problem because you are not facing the discrimination because you haven't been challenged. It doesn't bother you because there's a very popular film called Django, and I would really suggest you go watch it. And it gives you an example of people from within our own community sell themselves just to brown nose their way through society. So unfortunately, I have to categorically disagree with you, and I personally believe that if the Reform Party and the leader Nigel Farage is not a racist, and if there is not institutional racism, then she should be suspended from the party immediately.
All right, so I'm part of the problem in your view because what? Because I'm not saying that everything's because I'm black and I'm not complaining. Look, your experience may be very different from mine, but in my experience, I've had great assistance from people who are white, people of all different colours, and I experience racism, but I deal with it in my own way. I don't deal with it by calling other people names just because they don't experience it in the same way I do, OK? So that's the first thing. Yeah. Sorry, let me finish. I listened to you and I didn't interrupt you.
I will let you finish.
Yeah, that's good of you. Thank you very much. But also, with regard to Sarah Pochin, she's welcome to make that observation if that's how she feels. I don't feel that way. I've never really noticed it much in the adverts. I don't think she was particularly meaning to be racist. I think perhaps she was just making an observation and wanted more representation of white people in the adverts, in her view. I don't really see what, I have no issue with that if she wants that. However, she has apologised and accepted that perhaps it may have come across in a negative form. The point I'm making is that I wish people would just move away from constantly looking at colour and start looking at the content of what somebody's delivering, because otherwise we will never move forward. We'll continuously perpetuate racism. So my point is, I really would rather that people stop saying, oh, you're part of the problem because you're black and you're not complaining because you're black, so you should be. I mean, I'll be called a gatekeeper and all sorts of. Exactly.
I understand.
Do you?
Look, you've called me to ask me questions on this show, not to give everyone a speech. And quite rightly, if you want me to deliver my responses,
I listen to your response. However, if you call me things like Django, then I'll come back at you.
My reply will be to you on that is yourself might not be bothered, but a sitting member of parliament who represents a constituency, who is in the corridors of power, should have some more common sense. The fact that Nigel Farage from the Reform Party considers Sarah Pochin a high caliber candidate, I would actually be very worried to see what his lower caliber candidates are, because if Sarah Pochin as a high caliber candidate within Reform Party is behaving as she's behaving, it's a very telling sign. And I understand that you might have been on the better side of the British communities, and you might have had loads of favours by non-black people, but unfortunately there are many
white people, all colours.
It's my turn now. It's my turn. There have been many people like myself who have been disproportionately discriminated because of the colour of our skin. History has dictated that, how much our ethnic minorities have suffered. So the fact that somebody like Sarah Pochin, somebody who's sitting in the corridors of power, who claims to be representing a community, is a very telling sign. So I firmly believe Sarah Pochin is actually a clear description of how British society and British politics has become. First Robert Jenrick, now Sarah Pochin, and the fact that anchors like yourself are equating her comments to people like Hamza Yusuf, who was only identifying the establishment, the racist, the institutional racism that exists within our communities. You might not have suffered, but that does not mean because you haven't suffered, we do not have a right to call these people out. And I'm sure we will continue to do so.
Nobody's not saying that you have a right to call people out for things that they've said. I don't think it was a particularly wise thing for Sarah Pochin to say at all. But then I also don't think it was a pretty wise thing for Hamza Yusuf to say either, because he's in a majority white country. The point I'm making is that if you can make that observation on one side, you should be able to make the observation on the other side. And that is a simple point I'm making. Where you sit in terms of how you feel about that is entirely up to you. But the point I'm making is that if you want an equal society, then people should be allowed to make equal observations. And that is the point.
I agree. I agree
Exactly.
with you. But the fact, I agree with you. But the fact that Sarah Pochin, who's a sitting member of Parliament, has apologized means nothing. She has not apologized because she's apologizing for what she's saying. She has apologized because she has got caught, and everyone has caught her out for it. She's not sorry because she made a mistake. She's sorry because she got caught.
Well, she's not here to defend herself, so you don't know whether she is or she isn't really sorry. I'll take her on her word and hear that she acknowledges that what she said.
Sure you will.
What she said may have come across in a racist manner or in some unacceptable or offensive manner. Hang on, let me finish. Let me finish. Let me finish. Don't talk over me. Don't talk over me. Don't talk over me, Shaquille.
No,
I'm speaking. No, Shaquille. Let me finish. I haven't finished. I haven't finished. It's very good of you, Shaquille. Thank you very much for talking to me. That is political activist Shaquille Afsar. Yes, so the point I was making is that, of course, Sarah Pochin's apologised. She's acknowledged that maybe her comments were unacceptable, but she's also not here to defend herself. Right.